I gate crashed a funeral and ended up getting more than what I was bargaining for. I have no one else to talk to about this, and people would think that I'm crazy. I know that there's no way this is true. I know everything about my family. There's no way that my grandmother's been keeping such a secret for so many years. Now I wonder if this was the reason that my mom turned out the way that she did. Now, I'm not sure if I hate her as much as I do for what she's put me through. I have just come back to my hometown. I moved away about 2 years ago, just to get a better life for myself. There's nothing much here for anyone. I mean, there's jobs, but not the kind of jobs that I wanted to settle for. My biggest fear growing up was, of course, turning into a small-town girl. I wanted to be more, to be honest, I was chasing the bright lights of Hollywood. A friend I met at art camp years ago invited me to come live with her in the city. She was attending casting calls and frequently had even landed a few gigs. I was so much better than working at the local pub and serving drunks that could not keep their hands to themselves. So, I left and ended up sharing a tiny broom closet with my friend Ivy. We have had so much adventures together over the past 2 years, not gaining much success, but still having fun. We get by through waitressing, cleaning, and freelancing, and when we both book jobs, we get a good chunk of money, which we use to invest back into our future. I don't know much about her family. She told me that there's a bunch of narrow-minded people who do not support her dreams. For me, it's different. My grandmother supports my dreams, and I visit her as often as I can. She's tried her hardest to raise me with little to no support from my parents, and I don't know my father. Some sort of generational curse I got from my mom. She too does not know who her father is. Her mother only told her that he was in the military and never remembered. Well, I remember once when I was 12, I found a bunch of pictures in the attic of my grandmother and a man. They looked like they were in love, and thinking that I have solved the mystery, I showed her the pictures. To my dismay, she was very displeased of my discovery. She told me to never tell anyone about those pictures, and to never go snooping up in the attic ever again. This is leading into something, I swear. Just bear with me, guys. I don't know who my father and grandfather are, but my mom and grandmother had kids out of wedlock. That is one of the reasons why I wanted to leave the town. I don't want people to talk about me and assume that I will do the same thing. They can be very insensitive when they talk about my family. This leads me to how I ended up at a funeral I had no business being at. I've never been to a funeral before up until I was invited by Ivy. She told me that her great aunt had passed away, and she did not like the side of her family, so she needed me to come with her just for a bit of support. Also, her mother, who was very much against my friend being a thespian, was present. I had nothing to do, so she told me that we could fly first class. I agreed to attend the funeral. I've never flown first class. She needed my support, and the funeral was in the town right next to mine. I figured that after the funeral I would visit my grandmother. Everything was going well at the funeral until I noticed an old man looking at me. He kept on looking at me to the point where I got very uncomfortable. Well, the service ended, and then we went to a very big house where the after-tears were to be held. It was the funeral of some very wealthy women who was Ivy's great-aunt. The aunt said that she had not even known the women for long, but she had been forced to attend the funeral. So there I was, minding my own business, eating some, food, and trying not to fit in, when a very intimidating lady came up to me, and she looked me up and down like I was a vermin, and she told me that the staff was not supposed to be eating the food. I told her that, sorry, you're actually mistaken, I'm not part of the staff. She told me that if I was not staff or family, then what was I doing here? Well, I was about to explain to her when she told me to get out. I wanted to tell her that I was with Ivy, but I was lost for words at her rudeness. The look that she gave me was absolutely deafening, and I could tell that she was already judging me, looking at the only black dress that I had that was appropriate like it was a rag. I told her that I could not just leave, my friend was here, and she then said that she knew the likes of me, here for crumbs and the gossip about what happened to the fallen matriarch. She even told me that the funeral was a private event, therefore I was not allowed, and it was like she could smell that I was not a part of this elite, as they called themselves. I was used to such treatment in the city. I usually steered away, but this time I could not. I'm not here to support my friend. I'm here because she asked me to be. Now I could see why she did not want to be part of the family. Just looking around, I could see that they were a bunch of snobbish bunches. They reeked of wealth so badly that I actually wanted to vomit. There was also an eerie feeling I was having, and I felt myself shiver, and then I turned away. I started to make my way out the door to where I left my coat. I texted Ivy, letting her know that I was going to leave early. I walked down a garden path to where I could see the gate, and then I found myself being pulled to the side. I wanted to scream. All I could think about was the fact that I was going to get killed on these grounds, and I believe I do watch too many true crime shows. I locked eyes with the creepy old man from before, and he shook me. He was very upset. He looked like he was in disbelief that maybe he had seen a ghost. And then he said my mother's name, which is Alexa. He asked why I was there and how I found him. I wanted to crawl out of my skin right then and there. I tried to scream, but he gestured for me to shut up. I looked into his eyes, and then suddenly I did not feel like I was in danger anymore. He had some of the saddest but kindest eyes I've ever seen. He also had a very familiar look in those eyes. He clearly thought that I was my mom, which is crazy because my mom is 15 years older than me. Maybe. Oh no. Not one of my mother's clients. Had I just stumbled upon one of my mother's so-called suitors at the funeral? I internally cringed, and it appeared that she was back in town, and if people thought I was her, then I was not going to catch a break. I knew that a 6-month stint and smoking had aged me pretty bad, but not to the point of looking 15 years older like her. I told them that I was sorry. I was not my mother. I was about to leave when he asked where I stayed, and I told him that with all due respect, sir, I could not tell him where I was going because that's weird. I don't know him. And then he opened his wallet and gave me some money. Told me to be safe, and then off he was. I just shook my head and looked down at the money. It was $200. I sure hoped I was not receiving my mother's payment. I made a mental note to put her in her place when I get home. Already our family had a bad reputation, and now she was messing around with this gentleman who had just left. I decided to get myself a cab to a cafe, then I would get home. My stuff was in Ivy's car, so I told her to bring everything to me tomorrow. Then I ate some food and I left. Grandma was home. She was feeling a bit under the weather, so I spent the rest of the day nursing her cold, and I noticed my mother's shoes by the fireplace and realized that she must be around somewhere. So, I fell asleep watching some videos on my phone, and about the same time, there was a knock at the door. I opened the door just to find the man right there from earlier, and he had my bags. I asked him where the heck Ivy was, and he told me that his niece was a bit tired and had gone to sleep. Gone to sleep? So he thought to bring this to me, and then he smiled at me like we were old friends or something, and I reached for my pepper spray. But, of course, I was in my pajamas, and I said thank you, and then just grabbed my things from him, and then he looked behind me and asked me where my mother was. He said it very loudly, too. If my grandmother saw this, she would not be very happy, so I told him not to say another word. He asked me why. He just wanted to see her. I told him that she did not do business here. He asked me what the heck am I talking about? Well, I was not having any of this, so I told him that I was going to call the police. And just then he looked like he had been struck by lightning. He looked behind me and said my grandmother's name. I turned around and my grandmother looked like she had seen a ghost. So, you know what? I asked her, "Who is this man?" And then she said that he was my grandfather. I told her there's no way, he died in war. She shook her head and then she broke down in tears, and I ran up to her to catch her before she collapsed. She did not say anything for minutes while she cried. And then I looked at him and he was smiling, but tears were rolling down his cheeks. Oh, it had been my grandfather and not some creepy man who was looking to kidnap me. I have serious trust issues, guys. I know. I told him to come in and take a seat. My grandmother was done crying and she told me to leave the room. This was not fair. I needed all the tea. And if you have not figured it out yet, he is Ivy's uncle, which means that all along I was living with my cousin. Wow, my mind is blown. I've not gone back into the living room yet, and wait. I think I heard my mother's voice. I wonder how she will react. I'll update you guys soon. What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here. So today's story is very, very special because it goes on many updates and it just keeps getting crazier and crazier. You think the ending of the first part was crazy? Just wait until update 2. If you guys are new to the channel, my name is Mr. Reddito and I narrate stories daily. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and let's jump into the first update. Sorry, I could not continue right then and there. The drama has just gotten worse. So, my mom did not have the best reaction to finding out that her father was here. She asked him if he wanted to claim her now, even with her lifestyle, and I went out to peek and see what was going on. This was better than a telenova. Through peeking, I found out that my grandma had an affair with him a long time ago. She was his mentor at work, and even though she was younger than him, she was doing well for herself and making her family proud. Once she trained him, they did not see each other for another 2 years, even when the unresolved feelings that she had for him. She thought that he could never like her, but oh boy, he did. The only problem was that they met when he was engaged because, well, he got married. Then they started having an affair. When my grandmother found out she was pregnant, she told him, and he could not bring himself to ask her to terminate the baby, so he gave her money and told her to disappear. He continued life with his work, and, well, she tried to update him on the baby's progress, but he never responded. My mom found out that her father was someone else's husband. She did not know who he was, but at that time she was 12 years of age. She begged her mom to tell her, but her mom dared not. If it got out, it would have catastrophic results. For her own sanity, she made my mother swear not to tell him who the heck my grandfather was, and then 3 years later, my mom had a teenage pregnancy. When my grandmother mentioned that, I figured out it was the very best way to ask my mom about my father. It seemed like we were in a paternity court, so I figured my mom owed me. My mom was raging. She kept on looking at her dad and scoffing, and my grandmother tried to get her to calm down, but she wanted none of it. So then I asked Mom if she was so mad about this, then she better tell me who my real dad is, because I'm mad too. At least then I would not have a situation like this. She told me to shut up and go back to my room, like she always does. Well, I was riled up. I asked her how she felt knowing that I thought my grandfather was one of her clients. He asked if what he had heard was true about my mother. I asked him how he knew anything about her. He said he had been keeping a close eye on her for several years, but the information was minimal. Mom looked him in the eyes and told him that she was proud of what she does, because it brought food into the house and put bread on the table, even if some higher-than-thou people in this house wanted to turn their noses up at her profession. He looked sick to his stomach, but his head on his hands, and he started sobbing. He kept on saying that this was all his fault. I felt sorry for the poor man. I know what he did was very crappy, but my mom was being extra. After the traumatic childhood that she was given me, she better not say a word about it, and my grandmother then asked him if it was okay for him to leave, and we would just talk tomorrow. He said he would, but he wanted to say something, and when he saw me at the funeral, he realized that he missed his family. The people he was surrounded by just wanted to spend his money, and now that his wife was gone, he did not have to keep that secret anymore. He wanted it to be known that he had me, Grandma, and Mom. I asked if he did not have kids with his wife, and he just sighed. He told me that those kids were something else, that they have taken after his wife. He asked us if we would consider moving in with him and becoming part of his family. Well, that was obviously so random. I don't know what to do, and I'm not sure if I should even have a choice. But I think that only my grandmother can agree to move in with him. Also, guys, I'm related to Ivy. Update number 2. Hey, so I know you guys have been waiting to hear what Grandma discovered. She did not disappoint at all. She said that we would move in, but if his family treated me and Mom badly, then we would leave. It felt like I was in a Princess Diaries movie, and I could already see it. We were going to have lessons in etiquette and new clothing and etc., but there was none of that. We landed right in the middle of a war zone, and we had just finished packing our things when we heard screaming, so I ran in the direction of the screams, trying to figure out what the heck was going on. I came downstairs only to find a woman who was screaming at another woman whom I recognized to be Ivy's mother. I realized then that, shoot, I forgot to message Ivy and tell her that we were family. It all happened so fast, and it was coupled with trying to convince my mom to come with us. I still think that we should have left her to her devices and not brought her here. Ivy's mom was holding a little poodle, and she was calling the other woman a monster. The other woman was holding a dress that was ripped, and she was screaming her head off and saying that the other one would pay. The little poodle, on the other hand, looked traumatized, and I walked up to them watching the drama, and then they started to struggle, and in that struggle the poodle fell into the water. The two women did not notice. They were too busy fighting each other, and I looked into the water in a panic and noticed that the poodle was struggling to stay afloat. I did not think at all. I just jumped into the water and grabbed the poodle. And then a thundering voice shouted, asking what was going on. I was in the pool, holding the poodle while two women looked like they had just been through the jungle. I got myself out of the pool and handed the pooch to the middle-aged man who was standing there with a thundering look upon his face. He asked who the hell I was, and I told him that I'm Eva. We were related. He just looked at me funny and told that two ladies to explain themselves right now. I then noticed that the other one was the woman who kicked me out of the funeral, and she looked terrible, with scratches on her face. Talk about a cat fight. She pointed at Ivy's mom and said that she set the cat on her clothes. Ivy's mom said that she did not. She should not have left the door open. The man then asked Lucia why we were always fighting with his sister and did not have better things to do, and then Lucia looked at me and said she knew me. I was that poor girl who gate crashed the funeral, and I told her that, hey, I'm actually also family. I was just so excited to have family, and even though they did seem a bit crazy. Update 1 month later. Hey guys, so it's been a month since I moved in with my grandfather and his family. Getting to know my new family has been interesting, to say the least. A few of them, like my grandfather, are actually pretty cool people who may have been very welcoming, which has helped us all settle in. Then the rest, who are not friendly to us and treat us like we do not belong, and among all of this is just craziness. There is one thing that's bothering me, though, which is Ivy's reaction. Ivy's mom told her that we had arrived and what was happening, and she had only heard that there were going to be new members in the family. But she never once dreamed that it would be me. After I explained the strange story of how my grandfather and great-uncle met, I expected her to at least be welcoming, but instead she was indifferent and asked me when we were going back to the city since we had a couple of auditions lined up. I'd already forgotten about my dream due to my excitement, and my best friend was related to me. No wonder that we shared such a great connection all this time. I told her that maybe we could stay here for a bit, spend a bit of time with family, and take a break. We had been working so hard in the city that I felt a break, well, it could have been much needed. She told me that she did not want to stay in that house for much longer. Besides, her parents had an apartment close by and they expected her to stay with them when she was in town. Her issue with her mom was a long story, but she warned me against her. She told me that I had to be careful who I trusted in this house because everyone was trying to further their agendas. She then told me that the man who had broken up the fight was her mother's cousin, who she was close to and called her brother. The woman that fought with Ivy's mother was his wife, Lucia. Lucia was a diva and a snob. She respected no one, not even her own husband, and her personality was so similar to Ivy's mom that they often clashed. His name was Martin, and he was the oldest son. My mother is younger than him and is a middle child, and after him and Theodore and Andrew. Theodore works for grandfather's company, and Andrew, well, he's overseas. Some family members live in the house, others have their own property, and some do not even live in the city. I thanked Ivy for giving me an introduction to my new family, and I know that I'm not from the same background as them, but I want to get to know them and accept them. I mean, do you blame me? While Ivy and I were talking, a helper told us that dinner tonight would be a family meeting as well. I asked Ivy how the reaction had been when grandfather revealed that he was bringing us to stay with them. She told me that no one was happy and they all felt betrayed. He tried to explain the situation to him, but everyone felt that it was disrespectful to the memory of his late wife. When she said that, I realized how it must have been for them to find out that he had been keeping such a secret from them. I could understand if they did not want me here. So, I was, after all, the daughter of an illegitimate daughter. Suddenly, I just felt out of place, and the family dinner/meeting was very eventful. Yeah, at the end of it, I wanted to go home, and my grandmother was subject to a lot of questions from his son. They did not hold back. They demanded that a DNA test be done on my mother to make sure that she was part of the family. They made it clear that they did not consider us to be part of the family, and they told my grandfather that this would be a PR nightmare if it ever got out. His response was that while he had made a mistake, he had also wronged us, and he had wronged everyone and was going to do his best to fix it. He said that he is sad that his wife never knew what he did, but he could not just abandon us since we were his blood. He said that he did not care what people said. He was old now and only wanted his family in peace. They were livid. They called him selfish, telling him to send us back to where we came from, and I did not say a word throughout all of it. At least I had Ivy by my side. She gave me a reassuring tug every once in a while, and guys, after that absolutely horrible dinner, where my mom lost her temper and walked off, I went with Ivy to her room. She told me that she was leaving in the morning, and if I wanted to preserve my peace, then it was better for me to join her. But if I wanted to stay with them, then I was risking my own sanity. I cannot leave my mom and grandma in the pits of a viper. I know that Ivy cares about me, but I'm going to stay and see how it goes. Not all of them are that bad. The younger kids are so nice to me and are completely oblivious to how everyone else feels about us. That is what I like about young kids. They simply don't know how to judge. Update 6 months later. Hey guys, I know I have not posted in quite some time, to be honest. I have just been so busy settling in. After the mourning period, many people ended up leaving. After Ivy left, I spent most of the time with my grandparents. Grandma was happy to be here, but also a bit guilty, since she was only here because Grandpa's wife had died. I asked her if she never saw herself and Grandpa reconciling, and she said that she did not think so. It was too early to be thinking about that either way. That was the last time that I even asked that question, though, and as for my grandfather, we became very, very close. Almost inseparable. We went out on these long walks in the garden, and he told me stories of his youth, about the family and the history of the home. Sometimes we went out for brunch, and once he even took me to the casino. As we grew older and closer, I realized that he was very lonely. His sons were taking good care of the company, and his grandchildren lived with their parents, and other family members simply lived far away. The only people who lived in the house were me, Mom, Grandma, Grandpa, and his two sons who did their best to avoid Mom and me. It was not a secret that they did not like us. Whenever I asked Grandpa for something when they were there, they would give me this very funny look. But when they were not there, it was just me and Grandpa. He was very kind, intelligent, and he understood me. But as for my mother, she did not like him at all. She ignored him, especially once he gave her a black card to use for what she wanted with an unlimited credit. She spent her days shopping and sleeping, doing nothing productive with her life, and I avoided her as well, feeling that she was such a child. It was like we were on an island, away from the rest of society, and it was perfect. We did not have to worry about anyone or anything. I mean, honestly, guys, it was just us. But of course, every cloud has a slimy lining, which comes into two. It was two women who had been fighting that afternoon when we arrived. My grandpa felt that I was spending too much time in the house and that I needed to be around other young ladies. So we called Lucia and told her to take me to the spa, where I could meet other young women whom I could be friends with, and I was still friends with Ivy, but she was so busy on sets these days that I could not always get a hold of her, you know. So, we arrived at the spa. It was my first time being there, and we were given some champagne, and they even pampered us with really nice massages. Lucia did not speak to me much, which honestly I didn't really mind. That was until a friend of hers joined us, and they started gossiping about people that I simply didn't even know. And then the lady revealed that she had just gotten a necklace that was costing upwards of $250,000 from her husband. Lucia asked if he was cheating again, and the lady just laughed out loud, saying yes. Well, she tried to play it off a bit, but she looked really hurt and sad. I felt sorry for her. Even though she had been talking badly about other people before this, I still felt bad. She said that she found out which common woman it had been, and it was about a year ago, and he had been hiring some sort of escort service. Right then, Lucia laughed, looked at me, and said that she hoped that it had not been my mother. I told her, "You better shut up." My mom did not do that anymore, and I was very embarrassed that she would even say that, as people turned to look at us to see what the commotion was. Lucia said it was definitely her. She knew all about her past job. Another woman asked her to share what this job was and also asked who I was. Lucia laughed a cold and mocking laugh. She was like an owl, picking at prey, and I was the prey. That was the day that I knew I could never get along with this woman. She said that I was the illegitimate granddaughter from when my grandfather had his dirty affair. And the product was my mom, the escort. I told her to please stop it. I did not like the way the women were looking at me, and they asked to see a picture, and I begged her, I pleaded with her and said, please don't do it. She still did it. As each woman looked at my mother's pictures, their lips started curling and their eyes rolled. Her friend who had been talking about the cheating turned red as she said, yes, that's her. She told me to leave. She didn't want to be in the same room as me. Her daughter, Ariana, who I'd been talking to and getting along with, gave me a very dirty look and said she did not want to be friends with me. After that, I left. I didn't want to cause drama, but after that day, I could not even attend any functions. All the women looked at me funny because they knew what my mom used to do. I did not tell Mom and Gran why I did not want to go out anymore, and the whole thing just made me so sad. It was because of them, these snobs who think that they're better than us, that Mom and I never even stood a chance growing up. Mom never got to know her dad, and she turned rebellious and ended up making some very poor life choices. Well, I had tried to break the cycle, but I had nothing to show for it now. Instead, I was here trying to fit in with people who don't like me at all. Guys, this all happened, I don't know, about a week ago, but now I think that I simply want to leave. Update. They really don't want us here, and they'll do anything to get rid of us. As I'm writing this, I'm fighting with myself, trying not to cry. I've had enough of this family, you know. They are the worst people to ever exist, and they've ruined my life. How long will my past keep on going and following me, you ask? Till it destroys me? I got out of their hair, that is what they wanted, but no, they want to beat me till I can't go anymore. After the drama at the spa, I decided that I needed to leave for a while. I told my grandfather that I wanted to go back to pursuing my dreams. He was supportive, but he said that he would only allow me under one very strict condition. That I would go back to school, drama school, and he said having some sort of education would help my chances in life, and I would meet people who would help me advance my career. So, for the past 5 months, I've actually been at drama school, and I've enjoyed the lessons so much, and the teachers here are so inspiring. This has reaffirmed the fact that I want to be an actress. A teacher who was inspiring me is one of the older teachers named Dario. He's in his 30s, if not 40s, and I don't know, he's good at this stuff. His lessons always leave me in something valuable. In a couple of months, we're going to be presenting a play, and guess who got the lead? That's right, me. I can't believe I got the lead when the first years never get the lead, but I've been working hard and I do have experience from a few small roles that I've played over the years. Either way, not everyone is happy about it, and there's a girl called Ariana. Remember her mom when my mom had an affair with her husband? Yeah, that is her. She had made my life hell at the academy, and I will not go into detail, but I can tell you that she's not the nicest to me. She wanted that part, and she did not get it, even though she's always the lead. Because of that, she started these rumors that I messed around with Dario, the director, a favor like my mom does. It's not true. I respect him and would never think about him like that. This has led me to, be unable to enjoy my birthday weekend. It was the very first weekend that I've had with my family since I went off to the academy. I came home with a few surprises. Ivy's mom and my mom are now best friends. In addition to that, my mom and grandpa actually get along well now. They were both there for my birthday. There was not much drama, and I was having so much darn fun. Especially since Ivy was going to arrive later on in the evening, and it was a weekend celebration, so 3 whole days of celebrating me. But then, of course, nothing in this house is ever dull. Oh man, crap hit the fan when Ariana, Stacy, and some girls from the academy arrived. I asked Mom who invited them and even told them about my birthday. She told me that she thought that we were friends, and they even sent her messages, and I told her to tell them to leave. I didn't want them here. My mom told me that I could not do that because it would simply be rude, and we were also trying to fit in. It would not look good if we started just kicking people out. I then saw that Lucia was also present, which absolutely ruined my entire mood. Ugh. And then she went to make a toast to me. She acted like she liked me and only said good things about me, and then she mentioned that I got the lead role. Everyone was in awe and started to congratulate me. I sighed. Lucia and her big mouth, and on Monday I was planning on stepping down from the role and having Ariana take it, and Ariana approached me when I was talking to someone and pulled me to the side. She told me that I could not have that role. It was hers. My mother saw this and told her to stay away from her daughter. Ariana laughed and told her that I was becoming a homewrecker like her, and she did not have a right to interfere, especially after ruining her parents' marriage. Mom asked what she was talking about, and I whispered to her, telling her who Ariana was. Mom told her to leave, but she refused, and she said she would not leave until she exposed us. She then brought out a picture of me sitting with Dario. We had our heads bent over a script, sitting close, and nothing was happening in the picture, I swear, but to someone with an untrained eye who did not have context, oh boy, it looked bad. Then, Ariana said that I slept with a director to get the role. Tears streamed down my cheeks as I tried to explain. Mom gripped my hand and looked me dead in the eyes and told me to tell her the truth. Did I do it? I said no, I had not. She breathed a sigh of relief and said good, because that was my father. The next thing I knew, I was running. I kept on running and running and running and running and running. It was all too much. My father was right in front of my eyes, and I didn't even know it. And if my math was right, my mom was turning 16 when she had me. I'm back at school right now in my dorm, and I'm shaken. Writing it down has helped me to feel a bit better, but the fact remains that my father is here, and I don't know what the heck to do. Update. 1 week later. I've had a week straight out of a novel. Let me tell you about it. There's been so much going on that I've not been able to wrap my little head around it. But the burning issue, which I'm sure you're eager to hear about, is what happened when I confronted my father. Well, after a good night's rest, I decided that I wanted to talk to my mother. She owed me answers. So the next day we went out for coffee, and she told me all about my father. When she was younger, she liked to dance. After school, she went to a dance academy. It was for people over the age of 18, but she lied about her age and used a fake ID to get in. She paid for it by babysitting on the weekends, as it was not that expensive to buy one. That's where she met my father, Dario. He was a senior learner, and they fell in love, and the result was, well, me. He had a passion, but did not have a stable job, so my mother did not tell him about me, and she lied to her mom about how she got me, and the matter was closed for years. She did not know that all along he was in town, and she promised me that we would go and see him and tell him about me, but first she had something important to tell me. When my grandfather had us move in, several people in the family were very unhappy about it, guys. You see, they felt a bit threatened, thinking that it would get the inheritance from them. So they made plans to absolutely ruin our reputation so that grandfather would not include us in the will. They felt that since we were from a, quote, lower class, we would simply not fit in. Those people were named Lucia, Ivy's mother, Martin, and Theodore. It appears that these incidents where my mom and I have been embarrassed are not in isolation. Lucia got her friend to lie about the affair that she supposedly had with Ariana's father. No such thing ever even happened. Wow. My mother left her lifestyle ages ago, and she's also become close to my mom, so that she could get info about it and ruin my time at the academy. At the same time, Ivy's mom made sure that rumors about me getting the part in an unethical way swirled around like a toilet flushing. She was responsible for the picture that those girls showed my mom. What they did not count on was that they had chosen my own father as a Trojan horse. Of course, once I left, there was absolute chaos, and Grandpa was upset that he had been keeping an eye on them because he simply did not trust them at all. He knew that they might go to extreme lengths to make sure that we got nothing. So then he had them followed, and every device in this house was tapped. I asked my mother if he had always done that, and she said that he told her that his own father used to do it too. It's a habit. That was how, while being the youngest, he got the inheritance over his other greedier siblings. That was obviously a lot to digest, guys. I told Mom that I needed a bit of space to think about all this, so I've taken a break from school, and I'm living with my mom at one of Grandpa's apartments. Final update. First of all, I want to tell you that I finally got to speak to my dad. Mom invited him to our apartment and she simply told him the truth. He was very shocked. He told us that he needed to process this, and I've not spoken since ever then, and I do not think that I want to go back to that school. I've already given up my lead role. Going back to that place that is swirling with jealousy and backstabbers is going to kill me. Right now, I've just come back from a family meeting that was, let us say, eventful. It was very dramatic. Grandpa snapped today. He confronted them for the things that they have done to us since we arrived. He told them that while he did not expect them to welcome us with open arms, they should have been a bit respectful. He told them that they were all cut off from the will, and he knew that they had all worked together to try to take over the estate. They would have rather let his empire crumble than let us have our tiny little piece. They tried to defend themselves and deny it, but Grandpa had a lot of paperwork, screenshots that detailed their schemes. Can you imagine that Lucia and Ivy's mom actually worked together to get rid of me? I guess the saying is, the enemy of my enemy is my friend applies to them. They tried to deny it and blame each other, but Grandpa told them that they did not deserve a cent. He asked how far they were willing to go. Orchestrating that public humiliation was the very last straw. After that, they did that, and Grandpa decided that he needed to cut them loose. He has decided that he will leave everything to my mom and me. The look on their faces when he announced it was absolutely priceless. Then he had told them all to go to hell and get the hell out of his house. They refused, so he called armed security and they were all thrown out like dogs. It was so satisfying to watch Lucia beg for mercy after all that she's done to me. She used to look down on me and assume that I was lesser than her. She's now lesser than me because she has a terrible character. I've just gotten off the phone with Ivy, giving her the details, and she is thrilled. She told me of the years of hell she has because of her mom. She even invited me to come back to the city and pursue our dreams once again. You know what? I might just do it.
Guys, if you don't know about the third Mr. Reddito channel, it's pretty groundbreaking. I mean, we have daily videos on there too. The name of the channel is Mr. Reddito's Revenge. And the reason it's called that is because almost every single story has something to do with revenge. And I'm telling you guys right now, I have found some very juicy stories. There's over 100 videos you can go watch on the channel right now. The link will be in the description below, and if you can't seem to find the description, you can also type in the search bar Mr. Reddito's Revenge and it'll pop right up. And I'm telling you guys, it's not a channel you're gonna want to miss. If you think this channel with the inheritance dramas, the mother-in-law disputes, because, well, we know how evil some of the mother-in-laws can get on this channel, just imagine if you see some stories that get a little bit of revenge. So guys, make sure you go subscribe to the new channel, Mr. Reddito's Revenge. But let's talk about today's story because it was wild. I want to know your exact thoughts about this one. It was a long one. I mean, I found every single possible update. I think the story was over like 40 minutes of action-packed drama. What would you guys have done if you were in OP's position and you come to find out who your family members are after so long of not knowing? Drop your opinions down below. Let's discuss this one, guys. And don't forget to go check out Mr. Reddito's Revenge for daily revenge stories. I hope you guys have a fantastic day, but do remember one thing. It's cool to be kind. See ya.